Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 530 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your Tuesday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Governor Steve Bullock extends Montana closures and stay-at-home orders for another 2 weeks. That directive keeps schools, bars, dine-in restaurants, casinos, and other non-essential business shut down, and Montana families shut in at least until April 24th. Well, the governor now recommends everyone wear a cloth covering, a mask, when you enter public places like grocery stores and pharmacies. But it is still most important to wash your hands and maintain social distancing. Bullock says the state is working hard every day to make sure we are getting needed supplies in Montana. In fact, he says right now there is an order for 1 million N95 masks, but he says he's not going to count on it until he sees it.
I don't want a day to go by where a nurse or an ER doctor doesn't have sufficient PPE to keep them, other patients, and their families safe. I don't want a day to go by where our first responders don't have the masks necessary to do their jobs. I know I join many Montanans in wanting to ensure that our healthcare workers and first responders have adequate PPE.
Bullock says although it may seem like he is being overly cautious in a rural state, he says he believes these stay-at-home orders are working to flatten the curve. At this point, the governor says he is not planning to impose a curfew. Well, this as the number of confirmed positive cases and deaths appears to have come to a standstill across Montana. But it's not because the numbers aren't growing. The reporting has changed overnight. Well, the number of confirmed tests, 319. That's the same number we brought you last night at 5:30. The state also reporting the same 6 deaths this evening. Governor Bullock's communication director, Marissa Perry, tells us this is a change in the reporting process. So now we will get updated numbers one day later around 10 a.m. But tonight we've learned of at least one more positive case. Late this afternoon, Richland County reports its first confirmed case of COVID-19. The county health department says just today it received notice about a man in his 40s from the Montana State Lab. Well, Billings schools, students and parents are now closing in on the 4-week mark of being out of their buildings and dealing with the new reality of distance learning. 4 weeks will extend to at least 6 weeks after the governor's 2-week extension today. Administrators were expecting the extension and now are planning for May.
I mean, we fully anticipated going into mid-April and then to the end of April. We've been prepared for it from the beginning. So I say that confidently. That doesn't mean that it's eased the burden for families at home trying to be educators and trying to be parents. I'm very respectful of that, but we're continuing to work with our families and our students. But I'm very pleased with where we are and the work that's been done. Not shaken a bit by the 24th.
Now, UPHAM also says the district is looking at options for graduation this year. No decision has been made, but one of the many options includes a virtual graduation. Well, a nationwide public safety network is actively working with Montana leaders to determine where and how possible COVID-19 field hospitals and testing sites could be set up. This is especially important for a state like Montana, where internet service is already a struggle. Q2's Andrea Lutz reports.
FirstNet tells me that over the past 18 months, the city of Billings has switched from a different network provider to their service. The police department is using it, fire's using it, even Public Works, which means now they're even better equipped to deal with the coronavirus response.
In fact, if you think about it, this is the war that FirstNet was built for.
Jason Porter with FirstNet says right now, during the coronavirus pandemic, communication among agencies is everything.
It's almost like there is a fire, flood, tornado in every city across America at the same time right now. All of public safety is fully engaged in this fight.
Congress formed FirstNet after 9/11 as a way to streamline communication and connectivity among agencies.
And when we put it up, it's like the fast lane for public safety. We show up with what we call cell towers on wheels or cell towers on wings, and say a search and rescue mission in rural Montana, we would go out and set up a a cell tower for them so that they can conduct their mission.
Connections are now placed all over the nation and in Montana, where work is already being done to locate and identify where COVID-19 response structures may need to go.
And if, heaven forbid, it does hit Billings, Montana really hard, and you don't have enough beds in your emergency rooms and you don't have enough place to cover it, we are already working ahead of that to understand where we would need to set up a field hospital.
As the virus continues to place more pressure on emergency responders, Porter says FirstNet can help with simple but critical information. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
And Andrea tells us local police and fire jurisdictions can choose to independently sign up. However, because Congress approved the program, when a disaster does strike, deployables such as portable cell sites or hundreds of handheld devices are brought into a community at no cost. Well, you'd be hard-pressed to find an industry that hasn't been hit harder by COVID-19 than tourism. Around the world, travelers have canceled vacations. Hotels and resorts are sitting empty. And everyone wonders how long it will be before people are comfortable traveling again. Q2's Jay KOHN has more tonight on how the industry wrestles with this new reality. Jay.
It's been a devastating few months for Montana's tourism and travel industry. As the world and our region learns to cope with the coronavirus pandemic, the harsh reality is thousands of people have already lost their jobs, and things are likely going to get worse before they get better. First, the good news. A survey of 1,200 Americans conducted this past weekend indicates a majority of those surveyed say they hope to be traveling again this fall. A growing number say they'll likely drive versus fly, and they plan to avoid crowded destinations, which means that Montana's wide open spaces might be just what the doctor ordered. The same survey shows 65% of those questioned have canceled a trip or reservations in just the past few weeks. Stuart Doggett with the Montana Lodging and Hospitality Association reports that Montana's hotel and motel industry is already seeing widespread layoffs. One study says as many as 5,000 direct job losses just in Montana's hotel-motel industry, and when you add in the indirect jobs, that figure climbs to job losses in excess of 14,000. Across the state, hotel owners say right now 8 of 10 rooms are empty on any given night. And on the national level, Doggett says the hotel-motel industry is losing as much as $2.4 billion each week. Many of Montana's travel regions say they're beginning now to pivot to market a Montana vacation to nearby markets where travelers can simply jump in their vehicle and drive here. Even the best case scenarios show that Americans probably won't be comfortable traveling again until this fall. And by then, the hotels say they're only expecting, perhaps hoping, for occupancy rates near 50%. In Billings, Jay KOHN reporting for MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Jay. Well, a local good deed is not going unnoticed. It's keeping some of our nation's hardest workers during this coronavirus pandemic fed. As truck drivers stopped at the scales in Laurel, they were greeted by a group of Big Sky pilots with hamburgers and hot dogs today. Now, this started as a simple idea and kept growing and growing. By yesterday, some 500 drivers were greeted with food, a kind gesture to help those working overtime to keep our shelves stocked and our goods moving across America. A warm meal and a smile can make all the difference. Andrea Lutz will bring you the full story tonight at 10. Well, the Billings community is beginning to learn more about the economic toll COVID-19 has had on the local economy. Steve Arviskow with Big Sky Economic Development stopped by the Billings City Council last night to give an update on what his team has learned in the past few weeks. Q2's Mitch Legge joins us now with the numbers. Mitch.
Well, Jeanelle, local leaders are starting to learn more about how COVID-19 has affected the local economy, and they're starting to craft new ways for businesses to reopen once it's deemed safe to do so. While Arviskow has some rough numbers on the economic toll, he said he wouldn't necessarily hang his hat on them, because officials are learning more and more every day. Based on economic injury reports from 240 Yellowstone County businesses, 1,450 jobs were immediately lost 3 weeks ago. And business owners were unsure 3 weeks ago if 1,060 jobs would be lost. Arbuscow's rough math found with the immediately lost jobs, Yellowstone County could stand to lose an estimated $350 million in economic activity. In the meantime, there is a team made up of representatives from the business community crafting a website with recovery information for business owners.
We have information and resources on our website at Big Sky Economic Development. So does the Chamber, so does downtown. The city has some information. We wanted to create a site where all of you, all of us could say, your first click, go to this site. It will unfold for you all the information that's important to you as a business in Yellowstone County.
Arbuscow said that the Yellowstone County economy could be in recovery mode for weeks, months, or even years. He said that there's just not enough information to give a strong date at this point. Jeanelle?
All right, thanks so much, Mitch. Now, Mitch says that website with information should be available to take a look at some point this Friday. Well, the Billings Police Department released its annual report today. It shows progress is being made in the fight against several types of crime in the Billings area, but not all of them. Q2's Russ Riesinger took a look at the report and joins us now with some of the highlights. Russ.
Overall, Billings Police Chief Rich St. John says he's proud of the job his department has done in reducing a number of crimes that had been on the rise here in Billings. Homicides were down, robberies were down, drug offenses dropped dramatically, motor vehicle thefts dropped by double digits. I had the chance to talk to the chief this afternoon. Drops in major crimes and other crimes as well. How are you feeling about this report?
Well, we're very, very excited to see the numbers. We put a concerted effort into really attacking the property crimes and some of the aggravated assaults and robberies that we saw in 17 and 18.
Chief St. John says those reductions are no accident, that police targeted many of those areas and re-energized partnerships with other agencies to get the worst of the worst off the streets. Still, some crimes did show increases, such as aggravated and sexual assault, fraud, and domestic crimes.
What's really disturbing is some of the domestic-related crimes that we see. You will notice that in our what we call Part 1 crimes, which are crimes against people, the aggravated assaults continue to climb. And a lot of that has to do with a definition change in state statute, which added strangulation as a standalone charge. And we find that a lot of our domestic abuse cases involve strangulation.
The chief says another factor in reducing many of those crimes from years past is that his department was finally at full staff or near to it. And he says that's why that public safety levy that's coming up is so important to keep that up and hopefully keep crimes down. In Billings, I'm Russ Riesinger reporting for MTN News. Jeanelle, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Russ. Up next on tonight's 5:30 News, one local business owner was knocked down by COVID-19, but now she's back on her feet, spreading the love of food for those who need it most. And in sports, Scott shows us how Q2's Athlete of the Week has taken Rocky to new heights.
The warm showed up today, but so did the wind. We hit 64 for the unofficial high, but those wind gusts really picked up in the afternoon. And a look out towards the Easter weekend coming up in a few minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.